respect, and to listen to each other. For the members of this commission, help us always be mindful that we are public servants. Help us to hear with our hearts and to think clearly and reasonably. Help us to have the vision to look at the issues before us with wisdom and the determination to do what is best, even if it's not easy. Guide us in all we do to work for the common good. Tonight, we also ask your blessings on our courageous first responders, as well as on those who seek their help. We ask your blessings on all who support and contribute to the work of this commission, knowing without their diligent efforts, our work here would not be possible. Loving Creator, we pray all these things in the name of Jesus and all that is holy. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Microphone is on. Okay. I'm good. Okay, may we have the roll call?
Mike Buck.
Here.
Danny Wilcox.
Here.
Roger Burton.
Here.
Peter Hoogenhoff.
Present.
John Surbeck. Kevin Kirkland.
Here.
Ann Sands. Wayne Owens.
Here.
Thank you. Now, just a reminder, I'd like you all to turn off your cell phones or silence them so we don't have any disturbances during the meeting. Do we have a staff report on the county commissioner's actions?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that. I was busy with a bunch of other stuff today. So
Okay.
I'd be happy to give you one in 2 weeks when we have another meeting.
Okay. Do we have any consent agenda items?
We don't have any consent agenda items today.
Okay. We have approval of meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to hear a motion on
No, sir.
approval. Or is there any changes or anything?
No, sir.
No?
Thank you.
Okay.
I move approval of the meeting minutes from April 19, 22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public hearing process, this requires this body to conduct a quasi-judicial hearing, which means that the body must find facts and base its decision upon the application of the regulations, standards, and criteria, and the competent, substantial, and material evidence received during this hearing. All testimony must be competent, on topic, and not repetitious. So, I think our first one is Core Elizabeth Substation Rebuild. I'm going to open the public hearing on that one now. Staff presentation.
Are you going to make a motion to open the public hearing?
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
So moved.
Open the public hearing.
I move that we open the public hearing for our first Core Elizabeth Substation rebuild.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, Planning Commission and guests. My name is Matthew Carney, Land Use Planner for Community and Development Services. This is the application for the Core Elizabeth Substation Rebuild, rezoning application, RZ 220010. Again, this is a rezoning request from Agriculture A to Industrial, with a location of 37475 County Road 13, just north of Elizabeth. Generally speaking, it is north of County Road 150 on County Road 13, just to the west side there on some relatively undeveloped property. In general, the landowner is Core Cooperative. The representative that staff has been working with is Tony Pollock. However, we do have a different representative with us tonight. There are two applications that are being reviewed concurrently with this rezoning application, that being a minor plat application and a minor special use by review, which I will touch on in some detail in the coming slides. A pre-application meeting was held for this application on January 6th of this year. Formal application was submitted on March 31st after a community meeting on March 2nd. There was a single referral process from April 4th to the 25th, and we are here for the Planning Commission for a recommendation to the board on June 23rd. In looking at some of the surrounding zoning districts within the area, this is a predominantly agricultural area, as well as some residential in proximity in Running Brook Estates and Western Country Ranches. However, the most important item of note is that the existing substation itself is already zoned industrial, whereas this area that is subject to this rezone is approximately 1.7 acres that is being sold from the adjacent property owner to Core for the purposes of the substation rebuild on the 2.5 acres that's listed as industrial, almost in the center of the map that we have here. And in general, looking at the aerial, we have the existing substation located on this property, as well as the 150 or so acre property directly to the west that the 1.7 acres subject to this rezone is coming from. In looking at some of the site specifics here, this isn't too off the beaten path of an application. In general, this rezone is for a matter of conformance to make sure that the purchased area, which carries the zone district of agriculture, is conforming with our zoning code. That can be best achieved by meeting the zoning of the existing substation, which is industrial. The minor plat approval will allow for the creation of that 1.7 acres and allow for that to be combined with the existing substation property for a total of 4.2 acres. And then the minor special use approval in general will allow for that modification of the initial special use that was approved in 2019 to also include this 1.7 acres. I included the minor special use drawing on the right because I want to use this to be indicative of the use that we're going to see. Essentially, we're looking at the addition of another access point so that the maintenance trucks that will be making the rebuild on the substation property will have adequate ingress and egress to the property from County Road 13. In general, there were not very many referral responses that were objecting of this proposal. I have placed an asterisk with the Elizabeth Fire Protection District as well as the county's Public Works Department, and it's contingent on the access improvements on that 1.7 acres, making sure that there's a paved apron connecting to County Road 13, as well as when a building permit is issued or reviewed rather, that access point will be reviewed by the fire department to make sure that it is adequate for their fire trucks and their turnarounds as needed. In looking at the review criteria for a rezoning application, we have 6 criteria that staff looks at for these requests. We'll walk through those right now. In general, does this rezoning conform to the comprehensive plan? In general, we found that there weren't any specific goals or policies that spoke to this particular application. And in general, the rebuilding and expansion of a utility service facility on the adjacent property will allow the demand to be met of a growing county and in general, the growing area along County Road 13. In looking at whether this is compatible with surrounding land uses, industrial doesn't exactly meet the needs of agricultural or residential, but in general, noting that the substation is present there and serves the greater good of the residential area, and noting that that adjacent property is industrial and is in support of that, we believe that that is a compatibility with the industrial zone district in the area. In looking at public services, the rezoning in general will allow for the applicant, the local utility company, to make improvements to their facilities on that substation parcel, which is adjacent, and in general will help increase the capacity of services in the area. And in looking at whether this rezoning would impact the environment, we don't anticipate that there will be any impacts to the environment because in general the improvements will be made, the access will be left as is, and generally speaking this property isn't accessed unless there's being maintenance or an emergency outage that needs to be addressed. And again, looking at traffic congestion, this property will only be serviced during the maintenance of the rebuild of the Elizabeth substation. And in general, the applicant has made it clear that the only time this property is accessed, even in terms of vehicles coming on or even lights going on, is at the time of emergency maintenance only. And in general, staff feels that this proposed rezoning will not have an adverse impact to the health, safety, or welfare of county residents. With that in mind, Community and Development Services has the following findings that we would like the Planning Commission to find. That this proposal is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan, that this proposal meets the criteria for approval in the Elbert County zoning regulations, that this proposal is compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and this proposal will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, or welfare of residents and landowners of the surrounding area. In general, Community and Development Services does make the recommendation that the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to approve the Core Elizabeth Substation Rebuild Rezone RZ 220010, subject to the following conditions. The applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of a Board of County Commissioners decision. The rezoning will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezone exhibit is recorded. That this recordation in general is to occur within 180 days of the BOCC approval, and that the approval of the rezone application is contingent on the administrative approval of the concurrently reviewed applications, the minor plat MP 220011 and the minor special use by review MS 220012. And that will conclude my presentation.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make a statement?
Hello? There we go. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to review our application. My name is Brooks Kaufman. I am the Lands and Rights Way Manager for Core Electric Cooperative out of Sedalia, Colorado. We're really excited about this project. One of the main things is increasing the capacity here in Elbert County, especially the town of Elizabeth, and also a couple of the developments to the north, which is Independence. The reasoning for a lot of this is basically we were just putting in larger transformers, and actually we were getting rid of a lot of equipment and bringing it up to date. One of the things that I do want to clean up a little bit is that our access, we will go there monthly. We check on our relays to make sure that everything is working fine in our batteries that are inside the structure. And then also, there's some things that we were agreed to with the Planning and Zoning Department about putting screening, putting slats on the fence. But realistically, what we did was just we wanted to increase our access to the substation so that it can be accessed from 2 different locations. And the adjacent landowner's been great to work with. We bought the original property from him back in 1979, so great person to work with. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
The only question I have is, you were required or asked to provide asphalt apron at the new access point. Is there some reason you will not do that on the existing access point?
That it's not there existing, but we would be willing to do it. I mean, you have the asphalt machine out there anyway. What's a little bit more asphalt, so we can do it on the other north entrance.
That Road 13 is being used more and more frequently
Yeah.
due to all the development. I think that would be a reasonable.
Yeah, that's not a problem since we have to do it on the other one.
Thank you for presenting. The expansion with that additional space, that doesn't mean in the future you wouldn't potentially expand onto that property, right?
The way that it's laid out, no, we shouldn't have to do that. Only future expansions would be changing out the transformers. Today they're 225 megawatt transformers, and we're updating it to 50 megawatts. So it's a big improvement in the area. And we're anticipating that with the economic growth that's going to happen, and we're definitely supporting Elbert County. We want to bring that kind of growth in from hospitals to anything like that. We want to be part of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody who would like to make some comments? Any of the public? Okay. Then public testimony, public comment is closed. Now we've got a board-only discussion. Okay. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, with respect to RZ 22-0010 Core Elizabeth Substation, I move that we recommend approval to Board of County Commissioners, subject to the 4 conditions from staff and an additional condition of adding asphalt apron at the north access point onto the property, onto the previous property.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that closes the public hearing. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Go to the next one. Pete.
No?
We can go straight to the next one.
We're in the hearing process. So.
On that one, all right. So the next one is rezone 210074. Staff presentation.
All right, here is our presentation for the Jimenez-Torres rezone. Again, Matthew Carney, staff planner, board and visitors. This is the case RZ 210074. Again, this is a rezoning application from Agriculture A to Agriculture Residential AR. And generally, this location does not have an address currently, but is located approximately 3.4 miles west-southwest of Agate on County Road 162, relatively equidistant between 125 and 153. Yes, and in general, located within close proximity of Agate, separated primarily by County Roads 162 and 153. The landowner and applicant in this particular case is Jorge Jimenez and there is a concurrent minor plat application, MP 210075, that will be administratively decided pending approval of the rezoning application by the Board of County Commissioners. The pre-application for this was held on October 8th of 2020. A community meeting was conducted over Zoom on March 25th of 2021, and a formal application was filed with CDS on October 14th, 2021. This Planning Commission will go towards the board on June 23rd, and the noticing was completed per the zoning and subdivision regulations. In looking at the zoning, we really only have one color to see here. This is a predominantly large parcel area. In general, this stretch of 162 has the smaller properties in the general area, but we're still looking at properties in excess of 35, 40 acres. Most of these adjacent parcels are sections in size and have significant acreages tied to them. And in looking at the aerial map, supported by the zoning map as well, this is a very sparsely developed area with some residences and ranching operations in the area. And in looking at the site specifics, the future subdivision as proposed will be a simple split down the middle, essentially, with access on County Road 162 in the form of individual driveways. There are permitted wells for both of these future lots as well, and I'll cover that detail in just a second. But in general, this project had a little bit of a delay as we were trying to determine whether section line right-of-way was applicable to be dedicated in this particular case. And we had found, because this has fallen underneath the Elbert County Transportation Master Plan, that we would like to have that right-of-way dedicated for County Road 162. And in looking at some of the referral responses, the wells that are approved for the property through the Division of Water Resources will allow for up to 3.15 acre feet per year for both lots combined, and those wells will come out of the Laramie Fox Hills Aquifer. And these were applied for with the Division of Water Resources and are pending the subdivision approval with the county. The other referral agencies that I have listed on here with an asterisk, in general, MVEA, the Electric Association for the area, requested boundary easements, which were included by the applicant, and the Public Health Department with one of their more standard comments that in general soils reports would be required at the time of septic application when the lots are to be developed. In looking at the review criteria, we're looking at essentially the same A through F criteria for a rezoning application, and we'll walk through them for this rezone in particular. Does this proposed rezoning conform to the comprehensive plan? In general, we've found that the community resources topic area for water, sewer, and waste disposal that state laws are adhered to for domestic and water supply and septic systems, as well as natural resource topics in terms of the general environment, that new developments should minimize negative impacts to adjacent agricultural lands and designated open space. And in looking at whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses, we have to identify that there are a large number of large properties in the area, and that this would be breaking the norm for what this area has seen. There aren't any proximate under 35 acre parcels within 3 miles of this development. This would be generally a first for this area. The way that staff was looking at this was in terms of use. Whether 2 proposed dwellings on this property would be too far-fetched compared to what is seen in the area, which is either residential or agricultural lands. With that in mind, noting that essentially 2 residences could be erected on a property at any time, not to go down that rabbit hole, but generally speaking, approving this to allow for 2 17.5 acre properties for 2 single-family residences is appropriate in the eyes of staff. In looking at public services, we don't believe that there's a significant impact on the provision of public services in the area because essentially individual wells and septic systems are proposed here. There were comments provided following the community meeting held over Zoom that identified some issues with some of the single lane bridges that are feeding the property both on the east and the west. And we did have somebody with Road and Bridge before my time with the county that went out and did an inspection of the bridges and found that that was very low on the priority list for bridges to be replaced. That generally speaking, this development would not necessitate the improvements to the road or those bridges that allow that property to be accessed. And in general, looking at the environment, the referral review that we had completed, as well as what staff has been able to review with our regulations, we found that there would not be a significant impact to the environment with a rezoning from A to AR at this particular location. And in looking at traffic congestion or burdening to the road system, going back on the comments I provided from Public Works and Road and Bridge, that generally speaking, we had folks go out there, make inspections on the road and the bridges in the area, and did not determine that there would be any additional burden that the subdivision would cause upon approval of this rezoning. And in general, looking at the health, safety, and welfare of county residents upon approval of this rezoning, we found that the creation of 2 lots for 2 single-family residences will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of county residents. With that in mind, staff makes the recommendation to Planning Commission to find the following: that in general, the proposal is in conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan, that the proposal meets the criteria for approval in the zoning regulations, that the proposal is compatible with existing allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and the proposal will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area. With that in mind, we make the recommendation for the Planning Commission to approve the requested Jimenez-Torres RZ 210074 rezone, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the board, that the rezoning shall not become effective until fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezone exhibit is recorded, and that this recordation is to occur within 180 days of approval. And that will conclude my presentation.
Does the applicant want to make a statement or add to the comments?
Thank you very much for taking the time to consider this process. And basically, I just want to say that we bought that land to build our residence or future homes, and that's the only purpose for us. Just to me and my friend, we bought the land and we want to split it in, so we each have a title to his own piece of land, and that's all we want to do, following all the rules and criteria for this subdivision. If anybody has any questions.
Pardon? I'm sorry. Can you give us your name and current address?
Yes, my name is Jorge Jimenez Torres. I live at 8555 East Evans Avenue in Denver, apartment 2204. Zip code is 80231.
Thank you. Okay. No questions for him at the moment?
No, no.
All righty. Thank you. Is there any public testimony on this? Anybody that wants to speak to it? Okay, hearing none. We'll close the public testimony. Board-only discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple comments on from the Department or Division of Water Resources letter dated October 27, 21. Do we have a newer letter than that?
Yes, we do have a more recent letter than that. That was more than likely dated at the end of January.
I didn't see that in my packet. So my concern was in the October 27th, it said that the engineer determined there was not sufficient water available for the proposed use, and he would not, or the Division of Water Resources would not entertain proceeding with this application until they satisfied Elbert County's 300-year water supply requirement. Does the new letter satisfy that?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have that available for us to see?
Yes.
Did you have a question, Dan?
Yeah,
That was-
I'm looking at the outline here where central system, water supply. I was looking at it here and it shows Laramie, Fox Hill, so many.
I didn't see anything that.
See, so I thought, my question was, how deep do you have to go? You have any idea? Your well, how deep?
I was checking some estimates from different companies, and they said that the water is about 400 feet deep. So the wells will have to be around 600 feet.
Okay, because they show you going to the Laramie Fox Hill.
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, I thought I read that in there. I thought it was in there.
I didn't see that in the
I
package.
didn't see it. I did.
It was not in the file.
I didn't see it.
Actually, what I'm looking at is their water supply information where they showed it went to, and I assumed that was supporting their,
I wanted to see it.
you wanted to see the letter. Yeah, good. Question on the bridges.
You have any?
Yeah, you'd mentioned bridges. There's a couple bridges, I think throughout 162 as you go out there. Didn't the county have all the bridges inspected? Wasn't it a couple, 3-4 years ago? Do you remember, Matt?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics on that in particular, but the comments that were generated following the community meeting necessitated us, CDS, to put in a request with Road and Bridge to go look at the bridge in question that one of the surrounding property owners was concerned about, and they had made a determination that it was 12th on the priority list for replacement,
Okay. that
something
was
along
what-
those lines.
One of the comments, I believe, said there was a hole in the bridge, which they were unable to find.
That's correct.
Yeah, the picture didn't show anything either that
Right.
I could see.
But it comes down to the bridges in question. I think they had inspected all the bridges out here and gave us a time frame on when replacement time and everything else, and I don't believe those were mentioned. Now, they are limited in weight carrying.
That is correct, and I believe a lot of those details can be found within the Elbert County Transportation Master Plan. I believe we do have details on each of the bridges that we do have in the county, and I guess in general, a tabular format for improvements to be made on roads and bridges throughout the county. So that information could be found in that document.
Thanks, because that's what I wanted to let people know.
Any other comments? Any other discussion? I would entertain a motion on this one.
I move that case RZ 210074, move to approve and forward that to the board, subject to the conditions that are on the current conditions. We didn't add it.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Mr. Chair, did you second that one? Wayne? Awesome, thank you.
Okay, we can go with the staff presentation.
Good evening, my name is Greg Thompson. I am the CDS Director, and I'll be making the presentation on this particular application. Liscott Custom Homes, case number RZ 21-0082. It's a rezone that is proposed from Residential Agriculture 1, RA1 to Commercial C. Property is located at 4900 Wind Spirit Lane, on approximately 5 acres. That is located way up in the northwest corner of the county, north of Elizabeth, southeast of Wind Spirit Lane and County Road 166. Shows the site, shows the development around it. We'll get into that just a little bit more. The property is zoned RA1 as noted. It has a variety of zone categories around it. Immediately north, I noticed on the legend, the blue was not identified. That's a business zone. The property itself is RA1, and south of it, there are 3 other lots in the same subdivision that are zoned RA1. There are similarly sized lots that are zoned PUD east of the site. They're at Parkline Estates. DV Speed is a business that's located immediately west. There are 2 businesses that are located north in that blue property, and then the C commercial. And then there's a school also to the northeast. Provided a copy of the plat for you in the presentation. It was not in your packet, but thought that might be helpful. The subdivision plat was completed in 2008. On the plat itself, there was no mention of a commercial lot on the plat. Next slide, zoom down a little bit tighter to this. The subject property, and I didn't mark it on here, apologize, but it's that northernmost lot, and it is 5 acres. The minimum lot size in that RA1 zone is 5 acres, so I'm sure that had bearing on why that particular lot is at least 5 acres in size. Talk about the process for this application. The application was submitted November 16, 2021. The hearing dates before you tonight, June 7th, 2022, and the Board of County Commissioners is on June 22nd, 2022. That meeting would be at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So there are 2 different requests. The only one you're hearing tonight is the zone change. Zone changes are reviewed by Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. And as mentioned before, the zone change that's before you is that residential agriculture 1 to commercial. There's also a site development plan that is being processed at the same time for their office and shop for a custom home builder is what they're interested in doing on the property. That is something that is administratively done. A little more details about the site itself. The landowner is, I'll probably pronounce this incorrectly, but Hephaestus Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Lizcott Custom Homes. The location is mentioned is southeast of County Road 166 and Wind Spirit Lane. The site size is just over that lot minimum of 5 acres at 5.01, and the zoning is currently RA-1. I want to talk just a little bit about the EDZ. That's something that has come into the code in the last few years. If I said it was 3 years, I think it's about that when that was added. This particular site would not be able to be added into the economic development zone because it's within a platted subdivision. Article 9 has information about the economic development zone and lists out the exclusions of property from the EDZ overlay. Platted residential subdivisions or existing residential PUDs are excluded, not a qualified property from the EDZ district. The reason I bring that up is it kind of speaks to what, in many respects, the county's interests are in terms of where they want to emphasize economic development, where they wish to have commercial zoning. Talk about the referral process. Core Electric did not have any concerns with the zone change. The Division of Water Resources seemed to need some additional clarification with the change in use, if that's changed, or changed, in zoning. The Public Health Department needs an engineered septic system when there's a commercial property, so that would be something that would be needed if the zone change were approved. Public Works didn't have any comments about the zone change. Elizabeth Fire didn't have any concerns with the zone change. Elbert County Planning, the concerns are noted in the staff report. We'll talk about those a little bit. So the review criteria, Matt had talked about these in his applications, but there's basically, the 6 criteria. I'm going to go through them in a little bit more detail. The first one is whether the proposed rezoning conforms to and is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. As with most land use requests, a variety of comprehensive plan policies and goals that address both the existing residential and the proposed commercial zoning are present. We kind of balance out. We like residential, we like commercial as well. Excuse me just a moment. I have some additional information here. So talking about those goals and policies, the ones I wanted to call to your attention that were in the staff report, RD2 talks about preserving open space and preserving the rural character of Elbert County. Clustering residential development is encouraged on lands within 1 mile of paved roads and existing utility corridors where they exist. CD2 deals with commercial development, and it should be encouraged where arterial road access, water and sewer service, and suitable topography exist and are included as part of an overall development plan. So you have a little bit of the yin and yang in terms of residential's encouraged, commercial's encouraged. EG2 talks about economic growth. Elbert County should encourage economic development that provides a balance between commercial and residential tax assessments. EG4 was what staff felt was the most relevant kind of tiebreaker, if you will, between both of these good ideas. EG4 states, Elbert County should support designated locations for economic development districts, kind of going back to the conversation about the ED zone and where that's desired. Others that were relevant included in the staff report, EG5, the county should encourage economic development that minimizes impacts on surrounding lands. And EG6, the county should support the development of agriculture, commerce, industry, education, healthcare, natural resource development, tourism, and residential growth. So kind of finishing that portion up, mentioned that kind of what tipped the scales for staff was that EG4 policy, that Elbert County should support designated locations for economic development districts. The economic development zones are throughout the county on major corridors and expressly excludes those properties such as subject to application that are located in a platted residential subdivision. The next criteria for you is whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with the surrounding land uses. The immediately surrounding land uses are a bit of a mixture, but are primarily residential. I'm going to go back to that zone map. Bear with me just a moment. Too far. I don't have a good picture of this, but I'm going to kind of try to point to this. So the subject property is here. Immediately adjacent to it to the east is other residential properties. Immediately adjacent to it to the south is other residential properties. Across a street, Singing Hills Road or County Road 166, are a couple of businesses, and across another street, Wind Spirit Lane, is another business, DB Speed. So there's a bit of separation from this particular lot to the businesses by the streets. And it's immediately adjacent to and shares lot lines to the south and east with other residential lots. And I think that's something that is relevant to that conversation. Oops, too many. Okay, so this is talking about compatibility. This B is talking about compatibility with the surrounding land uses. The immediately surrounding land uses we just discussed. A basic tenet of zoning, why do we have zoning, is having separation between different land uses typically. Having existing and planned large lot residential uses to the east and south, which share those lot lines, suggests this lot remaining residential makes more sense. And as mentioned before, currently the commercial is separated by a street. The third criteria is whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services, and it would not. The next one talks about the environment. It would not adversely, but in and of itself, a zone change would not adversely impact the environment. The next one is E, and that talks about unreasonable traffic congestion. Rezoning would allow for the lot in question to be developed as a commercial use. The site development plan that they've applied for is a home building office, show home, and shop. They've indicated limited traffic will come to the site with this particular use. But what's being proposed is a zone change, and that zone change has a range of uses that are possible. That's what's proposed today. Tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that zoning would potentially still be the same unless there was something proposing to change that. So that category of commercial zones that are being proposed here would also allow for restaurants and bars and a gas station and different types of uses than what are being proposed as part of that site development plan. So as proposed with this particular one, there's not unreasonable traffic congestion. The possibility exists that there could be a fair amount of different changed, with a change in use potentially could come with different traffic impacts. The next criteria is F, and whether or not this proposal and proposed zone change is otherwise detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of Elbert County residents. And staff finds that it would be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare. There's a set of expectations which come with zoning and existing zoning that people should be able to rely on. Changing that zoning should be done with care and only when compliant with the zoning code criteria. Unfortunately, this proposed rezoning does not rise to that level. The immediately adjacent lots that are already developed with single-family residential uses demonstrate that the existing zoning works in the immediate area. Would also like to point out that the third lot in this subdivision has a house under construction. They have a foundation that they've been working on. It's in the ground. I didn't go over and see how far along that was, but they're definitely under construction on that site. Okay. So staff's recommendation regarding the findings is that the proposal is not in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan, and the proposal does not meet the criteria for approval in the Elbert County zoning regulations, and the Elbert County subdivision regulations are not applicable to the application, and the proposal is not compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and the proposal will be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area. Therefore, the Community and Development Services recommends denial of the requested Lizcott Custom Homes RZ-21-0082, which is a rezone from residential agriculture 1 to commercial. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one extra slide in there. My bad. There's another case. Sorry. So the recommendation is denial. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. and I believe that the applicant is here as well.
Okay, would the applicant like to make a statement?
I broke it. Evening. I'd like to thank everyone taking their time tonight to hear us. Okay. I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible because there's a little bit of confusion on either our part or how this property was represented from the start. So I just want to do a really quick recap of a couple items that we was told. So this property was advertised, listed, and sold as a commercial property that they had potential approvals, not final approvals by the property. The sign that was posted on the property was for commercial use in the POD. We had been provided a set of prints showing the property had been talked about during the EDZ being put in, taken out, put in, taken out. We understand that it was never actually put into the EDZ zone. So during our due diligence, when we put the property under contract, we contacted Elbert County, and I believe it was Jennifer Klitsch, I believe was her last name. During that time, we went through our due diligence. We was provided certain things of the CC&Rs, for example. And during the CC&Rs, I'll just make this brief, it states in there lots 2, 3, 4 of Wind Spirit Ranch. If you want to pull that map back up, Greg, we can show them what we're talking.
Just the 3 properties south of that.
So lots 2, 3, and 4, which are the back south properties of that, are to be referred as Wind Spirit Ranch from here on. Also in the declaration filed with the county, it states, under Article 7, since commercial development is expected on Lot 1, Wind Spirit Ranch, said Lot 1 is expressly excluded from these covenants, captions. Captions are inserted herein as a matter of convenience and reference only and are no way to be construed to define limit or otherwise describe the scope. And that was filed with the county. So that was something that we was provided. So again, under our understanding, lots 2, 3, and 4 were going to stay residential. Lot 1 was proposed as commercial clear back in May of 2007 when they was originally doing the dividing of the property. We was also given the water certificates and in the water distribution, again, it expressively says lots 2, 3, and 4 will be served by 3 individual Upper Dawson Aquifer wells. And they exclude Lot 1, and it states Lot 1 will be served by a non-tributary Denver Aquifer well to be permitted pursuant to the decree case 2004 CW23. In regards to the additional information Greg's talking about on the water well, that well is zoned for commercial usage. Now, that's why that was put in there, clear back into water shares, just so that it could be turned to commercial, or at least that's what we was told. So then that information was provided to us during our due diligence. We was also requested by the county to provide 3 conceptual drawings of what we wanted to do. Now, we own Liscott Homes. We've been around for 25 years. We're in Castle Rock. We're an established company. We're not setting up just to run it from county to county. So we wanted to bring something to the county that was what we do. We're not a high traffic area. We're a custom home builder. So we was looking to set up a home that fits in the area, fully landscaped, with a shop and barn enclosed, so we could keep everything inside, you know, whether that be a trailer or our trucks or have a place to store excess lumber. We don't build anything on site. We're not a builder off site where we go to the job sites to build it. So we provided a few different concept ideas. We originally didn't need 5 full acres, so we proposed, okay, well, here's one proposal of, here's our shop, here's our show home, and here's an outbuilding. Here's our shop, here's our show home, here's some RV storage. Here's our shop, here's a show home, here's a couple more outbuildings. So we proposed all them. And during the meeting with Jennifer, she says, I like all these ideas. I don't think there's a problem with any of these. We'd definitely support this, but we need to do a community hearing. So before the November submittal, we had a community hearing back May 26th of 2021. And unfortunately, it sounded like there was a company called Branded Iron that had bought lot number 2 of the same subdivision that apparently went in and wanted to do a full-fledged 500-spot RV storage area in there. As soon as we got on our Zoom meeting, the neighbors and community expressed their concerns. So we do not want this. This is not what we want. We got DB speed that looks terrible. Nobody's, doing any type of enforcement. We're not landscaping anything. It's going to hurt our community. We had no problem with that. We said, we'll remove that. That was not our intention anyway. It was just a concept idea. That's not what we do. We're not a storage company. We have never been a storage company. We're a home builder. And we're trying to do a custom home. So we agreed, let's remove it. We don't want any problem with that. Gary Livingston, who we actually purchased it from, was on the Zoom meeting. And he said, yeah, if you're in cahoots with lot number 2, we said, Gary, we have no idea who even owns lot 2. This is totally new to us, getting caught off guard. Talked to Gary. Gary has wrote us a letter afterwards stating, yeah, if you're not doing RV storage, I'll help you get approvals to do this commercial. It's always based to be commercial property. That was at least his intentions with the subdivider. So at that point, we now go back to the drawing board. We remove all the RV storage. We build a custom home that fits into the area, matches other homes in the area. We propose a nice, classic style barn. Do you have any of our concept drawings that we submitted? I don't know if you guys have seen anything that we've actually...
Can we plug in to show concepts of like the custom home?
Okay. If it's,
Yeah, I just wanted them to know like it will blend with, if lots 2, 3, and 4 are residential, what we're building is a custom show home with a new barn dominium, modern style, so it will blend in with lots 2, 3, and 4. Even though we are commercial, it does blend with the area. And our concept show that.
So we went above and beyond to make sure that, because we heard what the community said, we're trying to be part of the community, not have a battle with the community. I feel like we've been unfairly sucked into a RV and storage potential company that's going in on this lot, and we understand the county doesn't want that, the neighbors don't want that. We're not here to get that. I think we got in a bad timing situation because Branded X or Branded Iron was literally 2 weeks before our meeting, and the neighbors, I assume we got neighbors here as well, so we tried to listen to what the neighbors said. So we went and redesigned everything under the assumption, with speaking with Jennifer and more due diligence, that you guys change this and work with the community, show us the landscaping plan, show us how you're going to do this. We offered, we'll put up a landscaping bond because we don't want our place looking like DB Speeds next door. It was one of our biggest concerns. We talked about how can we get some enforcement to clean this up. We want to improve everything there. We don't want it to look like a junkyard. We don't want the RV park behind us. Like I said, it was a concept plan, and we feel like we got roped kind of into a bad situation without anyone actually understanding what we'd been told, what we'd been showed. And, if I go back and look at the history, I have a hard time understanding why this project in 2007 would have been designed and broken up this way. Why would we put different water to lot number 1? Why would we leave lot number 1 out of the CC&Rs? So, there's a lot of things there that is hard for me to understand why it wasn't potentially always looked at as a commercial spot. So, our intention, again, is to build a custom house that we use as a showroom to show our customers what we build. We have a barn outside. It's a shop. We may have a potential little outbuilding. We have no intention of putting up an RV storage. We have no intention of parking boats under lights. We have no intention of having people driving in and out of there all hours of the day. We have full intention of landscaping it and making it the prettiest lot on that road. I can guarantee it. And, there's other lots up and down the road that they're doing commercial stuff on besides what it's shown there. Now, whether they're zone commercial or not, but there's commercial activities up and down 166 all over. So You know, there's a barbecue shop set up there, there's a tree spade company set up there, up and down that road, they're all over. So whether it's actually zoned that or not, I don't know, but that was what we was told. Those are the documents we was given, and, you know, we feel that we have a case there that the property should be given consideration of going to commercial with what we're proposing. So any questions or comments from you guys?
No, I'm not going to ask him now. I'd rather hear what the citizens say first.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
As you're continuing to plan your shop and demo home, I'm assuming you're continuing investment in Elbert County in other areas, 4 homes or 3 homes. Doesn't seem like a whole lot to be building a foundation for a commercial facility.
Yeah, so we're planning to be a builder here for another 25 years. Like in the area, yep. Okay. Yep, so we do Elbert County, basically down from Front Range and then into Grand County. But we're trying to focus most of our attention in the expansion that's coming to Elbert County.
And the covenants got recorded.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Those covenants, what do you call them, PCRs, covenants,
The covenants?
they got recorded?
Yes. Those covenants were recorded on,
You have that record?
The subdivision plat was recorded in 2008. The covenants were recorded in 2020.
20, okay, I thought they were.
and the water was recorded in 2006, December.
I have a question. Okay, I can wait.
Can we bring them back?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, yeah, we will.
right. So at this point in time, thank you.
All right.
Do we have any public comment? Okay, would you state your name and your address?
My name is Art Evans, and my address is 40820 Madrid Drive, Elizabeth 80107. And I live in Parkline Estates, which is right next to the subject property. These guys, these are good guys. They want to do the right thing. We've got DB Speed right next to them. And there's no way to enforce, to my knowledge, that they'll say, we'll do this, we do that. And that really, it doesn't sound too bad to me. We got some concerns with lighting, some concerns with storing equipment outside. And my request to you gentlemen is there some way that you could restrict the uses of this? And as the gent over here mentioned, in the future, put a gas station, put a bar, put these different things that would really be detrimental. Across the street, there's a strip center, a gas station. It seems to fit. You don't need 2 gas stations. So, to me, what I'd like to you gentlemen to do is put restrictions on this, that for any future use, I mean, we're residents, we're in it for the long haul, and it affects our property. You got a nice piece of property facing a busy county road. You gentlemen have the opportunity tonight to say, we're going to keep Elbert County nice, and put restrictions on this. If they want to build, put a house, a shop. We don't want to see equipment stored outside. We've already got that just down the street from us, and my property borders that. I keep building bushes and trees, trying to grow them up to put some kind of a barrier. It is what it is. But you guys have the chance tonight to limit what can be done there, and that would be my hope. Thank you, gentlemen.
Do we have any other comments? State your name and address.
I'm Vivian Peterson. We own the two properties, the 40955 Madrid Drive and 655 Madrid Court. So we are the two properties that are right there. The two properties. Yeah, they're right. They're the borders of it. In looking over their proposal, like Art was saying, it looks good. Mike and I looked over it and we said, you know, if they will follow this, then it will be okay. But down the road, if we have a restaurant or something come in, that is going to be very damaging to our residential homes right there. We need to make sure there isn't light pollution. Right now, we're trying to get some trees in there because there is lighting coming from Coggin, from their sign right there on the road coming into the bedroom windows. Again, there's really no enforcement of it. The sign just went up. So we're concerned about the lighting, we're concerned about sound, we're concerned about traffic. It is a very, very high traffic area. It is very hard to get out on Madrid onto Singing Hill. I don't know how we haven't had major accidents there because it is very difficult during the day to get out there. Those are our concerns. Like Art said, if there's some way that we can limit it or make sure that it doesn't change in the future, that we can make sure that that what they're proposing does get carried through, so it does continue to look nice and to make the residential areas a good area. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. We don't have Mr. Levinson here. Gary? He's not around. Okay. Then let's go ahead and we'll close public comment. Yes, you can. I'm sorry. When we close the public comment, you still can come up after that. The public comment is closed, and you could come up and address the comments that were made.
Again, we just want to reiterate during that neighborhood meeting, we really did take into consideration all the neighbors' concerns. We really did listen to everybody. We designed a complete landscaping plan around what they talked about. When I stated earlier, you know, that road, that lot does butt up against 166, and it gets busier and busier every single day. I have a hard time believing that a residential home really fits there wanting to look at that road traffic on a regular basis. I mean, it does fit more commercial basis on the way it's set with the frontages and the way it was designed. That being said, you know, we're willing to put a bond out there for the landscaping to make sure it gets done in a timely fashion. You know, we want this to look good. We want this to be part of Elbert County for years to come. We're not trying to put up a cheap building. We're not trying to put up a metal structure and have light shining all over. You know, we'll have zero skylights. Everything will be face down. We'll have, you know, noise ordinances. There won't be people out there working past 10 o'clock. You know, we'll follow all the county guidelines when that comes to that. So I just want to say, we're here to work with the neighborhood, Elbert County, and the community. Just give us a chance to show you what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, was it Art and Vivian?
I'm sorry, you need to address the commission.
I'm sorry. John Reed, owner of Liscott. I appreciate you guys' comment and showing up. And I know you guys have had some frustrations with other owners or DB Speed, for example, that have come in and haven't lived up to what they said they were going to do. This is mine and Rob's business. We plan on being here until we retire. I don't know. Hopefully it's 50, maybe it's 60 or 70. So I like those. I like what you said to the planning commission. Put some restrictions. We don't have a problem with that. A landscape bond. We've already agreed to downcast lighting so that we don't have big lights all over the place. We're a small custom builder, so we do 8 to 12 homes a year. We don't have large excavation companies. We don't have large trucks coming in and out. Most of our sales and traffic is all from online sales. And then a customer will come in and meet with us, and we'll walk them through the process, and build their house in this area or around the Front Range. And I'm all about, I don't know if there's a way to do it, but I'm with you. I don't want to own a restaurant. I don't want to put a restaurant or a strip mall on the back side of our property. That's not our intention. So if there's a way to apply an amendment or some type of restriction that we can't do that, or if we want to do that, it has to go to you guys in to Greg and the Planning Commission prior to us doing anything like that, we're all about it, because that's not our intentions at all. We're a custom home builder. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I address a couple of things? There was some conversation about restricting the zoning, and that's not something that's possible given what is being proposed. You can't have that type of, you can't restrict that category because they're proposing a category of uses that's commercial. So you can't pluck out this and this and this. However, if they have an application for a PUD or planned unit development, that is something that would have some greater flexibility in looking at what uses could be there, how that might be designed, et cetera. So that conversation around that restriction of uses is kind of trending towards a PUD or planned unit development versus the currently proposed commercial zone. So that was one thing I wanted to touch on. The other thing, just another additional comment about the covenants. The county is not party to covenants, so whether somebody chooses to put covenants on a property or not, they don't necessarily have to comply with whatever the county has. The county did not have the opportunity to review them and offer any thoughts or comments on them. The third point, the property immediately south of this, the applicant talked about it. No, it's not coming on now. There we are. It's this property right here. There was an application that came before both this board and the Board of County Commissioners last year, and ultimately that property was denied. So the request was to change that, I believe, to industrial for the storage of RVs and boats, et cetera. So that was an application that was denied. So just wanted to make those points of clarification.
Could you also go over what it takes to change use on that property?
Should this be approved?
Right there, they're proposing a certain use on this property, it's commercial. Can you go over what it would take to change that operation, to change that use? Could you, because I think that might answer the question for some of these folks here.
It's a site development plan that would be administratively reviewed. So it would not come before Planning Commission or the board.
It would come back through the board and everybody to be reviewed?
It would not.
It wouldn't?
It would just be administrative. Mm-hmm.
I have a question for staff. When I was looking at this, because of the other properties around, would it be appropriate to do a use by special review? And in the residential, current residential zoning, and which would be accompanied by a site plan?
I would have to pull up the code and double check that, but I think that it would not, because some of the uses that they're proposing there, it's an office, it's a show home, and they have a shop as well. So there are things that would kind of exceed what you would ordinarily see in a residential zone. I think from the conversation that I've heard here, that a PUD, from my standpoint, seems to be more in line with what perhaps the neighbors have expressed, and perhaps the applicant as well. But that's not what's proposed this evening. So, yeah.
What I was looking at was, it really is similar to what the show homes are at Independence and Spring Valley and like that. Within the subdivision, they have show homes. They have similar buildings to what they're proposing as their their barn, which is for storing materials, et cetera. So it seems like it's a use appropriate to the residential zone if we can limit it. So, and I just, the PUD is one option, maybe the special use, if you could check that out, that might be another way to do it.
Matt's diligently looking through the code, seeing if he has anything under special use that would make sense for that.
And I have a question for the applicant on one of the site plans at the south portion of the lot. It says future building site.
So we was requested, we originally had that as just open area, and it was requested, do you have any future plans? The only plans we could possibly think of is if we wanted to put up an additional building for storage or something like that, so there's really no plan for it, because we're not using the entire 5 acres, as you can see. But we're grading the entire 5 acres and doing dust control on the entire 5 acres, because we don't want dust blowing around everywhere. So we don't really have an intentional use for it right now. It was requested that we do that.
Yeah, if in fact this would be approved as your show home and associated uses, my interest in that is at some point it could actually be converted to a single family residence on a single lot. And that would not allow an additional building because you've already got the additional building as a barn. So that's one of the concerns I'd have if a different approach is taken, that there should not be a future building site. It's single building or a single building group on the site.
No, I understand.
But that's a future consideration.
If it was going to be anything, it might be another, like a 20 by 40, another smaller barn style building or something like that for the same usage.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask the applicant a question? Sir, can I ask you a question? Sorry, I tried to catch you before you sat down. On the site plan that I have in the application, it shows on the side that's adjoining the residential area, a parking and storage area. Is it possible that could be put behind the where the driveway comes in off of Spirit Lane, on that back side of the office property? There's a kind of like a vacant area back there. I'm thinking of buffering so that keeping more of that area maybe underdeveloped, that's buffering.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen the updated site plan, or I'm not sure what site plan that is that you're looking at. So when we purchased the property from Gary, one of the conditions that we had in there was Gary had spoken with the neighbors and everybody about the concerns of this property going to commercial. One of the conditions that he had in the contract when we purchased was that he would pay for or help with the costs of trees all the way up the side of the property. So all this stuff had been talked about. We have a 20-foot easement on that side. Yep. So really, that's what's being showed there is because of the square footage and code requirements. Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe because of square footage, we had to show 17 or 19 parking spots. Is that correct? Is that correct? It was something like that we had to show, so that's where we put them.
Yeah.
Not so much that we're actually using there, it was just to show where it was going to go if we had to. So we could move that around the lot wherever it was going to go.
My observation is it could alleviate some of the concerns on that side that are adjacent to their property, to the residential area, and putting that parking and storage behind on the.
Do you have that concept, the concept?
It's in the application documentation.
Oh, yeah.
I could show you.
We have a concept plan.
No.
John, grab a computer.
There's a reason. There's two things that got.
Yeah, that part right over there.
Yes, sir. Moving it here, and you're closer to the driveway.
Yep, and so this here has been changed quite a bit.
Okay.
So part of that is.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
It's changed a bit. Sorry. Let me just grab this concept plan really quick and I can show you what we changed it to just since we're all here.
Mr. Chair.
It may be a move.
I would want to take note that we're not considering the site development plan this evening and the design of the site. This is just a rezone question this
Yes,
evening.
sir, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Real quick, there was a question asked basically about special use and whether or not that would be something that's possible. And I think that it would not.
Your residential.
There was a question or noting that some of these developing subdivisions have a show home, have perhaps an office in there you can go and find out which lots are available. Those are designed to be of temporary nature. The applicants testified they'd like to be here for 25 years with this same type of arrangement. It's more of a longer-term office use. We do have in our code an office with outside storage or without outside storage that would fit into this zone category they've proposed. We also have a section identified as a temporary construction office. It's not really temporary. It is that permanent fixture is what's being proposed, and I think that's why we ended up here having this conversation about this particular zone.
And just so everybody can kind of see a concept plan that we had drawn up, this is kind of what we was proposing. I know I would get up on a big screen, but, it's not going, so all that area that we was talking about, we was trying to keep it on a landscaping side. And that's been proposed, we submitted them with them, so.
Okay.
Just the rezoning is what we're.
Yeah.
The package, for the way it's set up, you see the other stuff in it. But what we're actually looking at right now is the rezoning.
Okay. I was just trying to answer the question about the side of it there.
I just want to make it clear that's what we're actually considering.
I guess it was our bad.
Mike?
Well, my only thought was 6 months ago when we entertained the idea of the storage facility on Lot 2, the original owner came in and spoke to us, and when he developed that property, he said his intent and his thought all along was Lot 1 would be at some point commercial, but Lot 2 was not. So I think this is a good blend of a hard commercial, industrial type project and a residential project. It's a good blend. The concept drawings look good. I think I like the project, but
I also remember
I remember.
RV, yeah, all the details on it, so. I don't have any special comments to make at this point.
Okay. Here's what we're talking about. Go back to our map, if you could, please, of the lots. It shows, all right, let's look at it that way. Right now, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 lots. By county code, those are zoned RA1. Okay, each one of those lots are zoned. Now, per our code, you can't take one lot. I can't take any lot in any subdivision that's zoned a specific type. I can't take one lot, cut it off, and change it to a commercial. Can't do that in my subdivision, can't do that in most any other subdivisions. Okay, there's only 2 cases where you can change zoning or do something different. And this is what we went through before. One case is if on the initial plat, if it was platted that lot could be changed or identified as something different. We looked at that. That's not there. That's why we asked if he would provide that first plat of that lot. And there was nothing on there, no notes that indicated that lot number 1 could be anything different. Okay. The other part that applies is we have to recognize, now granted, the county, I know we're not in the position to enforce covenants. However, in any subdivision, and I'll just use agriculture for one, I'll use cattle, animal units, whatever. Our county code will allow a certain amount of animal units per a 5-acre lot. I think it's 8, okay? Our covenants come through and state, no, you can only have 2 animal units. Those covenants apply. They override the county code. So in this case, we've got lot number 1. You took the covenants that we dealt with however long ago, 6 months ago, you recorded those covenants with the county. Those covenants indicated that that lot number 1, not lot number 2 that was being discussed before. Okay, that was not on the table. That lot number 2 was a residential lot, stays residential, is not even considered. But that lot number 1, based on your covenants, is indicated in those that it could be a different zoning. So, now the question is, as a county, do we recognize that or do we not? Ultimately, those covenants can override our code. Are we going to do that in this hearing? That's a decision you guys have to kind of make. You've heard the arguments here. Ultimately, those covenants are enforceable. And since they've registered them before, at the last hearing, they weren't registered with the county. They were trying to register them at that point. Do you guys remember that?
Exactly.
Yes. And now they're registered, they're recorded. So, my thoughts are we should recognize that as now a legal document registered with the county and proceed as to the point that, okay, that allows that lot a possible rezone. Now, to talk about you folks on limiting what can go to that lot, that this hearing isn't about that. We'll talk to the chair, but I'm going to say a little more that might help. Okay, it has to go through, any changes to that lot has to go through an approval process through the county. Okay, and I don't believe that, these folks are coming here, are presenting this thing the way it is and presenting, and they're working with you. Anything that they're going to change, one, it's probably going to have to change ownership. Okay, and then it's going to have to go through a whole process in the county. I don't know how long your administrative process takes. But do you get citizen input on your administrative process?
We'll send it out for comment basically after the review is complete. We can incorporate thoughts and ideas at that point. There's a 2-week period after a site plan gets approved, essentially, for neighborhood comments, but there's not it's not a public hearing like this.
Okay. The other thing, all right, so it's got to go through the site plan process. The other thing that they're going to have to do, if there's any change in kind of use on that property, they're going to have to honor all the setbacks that are required. And if you've already got a building on that property, those are already met and recorded and as right. You've got the setback set in all areas. So, I mean, to go through and redo something on that property is going to take a pretty big effort. It would be through an administrative, it would not come through the planning commission or the board. Actually, the board approves them. They're ultimately the ones who, even on your administrative decisions.
They will accept them, they won't approve them. They'll be signers on those documents, but they're not the approval body.
Your board has to sign your administrative documents.
There's an acceptance line on those.
There's the acceptance line, okay. So that's really what we're faced with. Now, and it may be, Greg, maybe something you involve legal in to see where they sit with it. And really, whatever we vote, it's going to the commissioners, and they're going to have to figure it out.
That was very eloquently done. So, thank you. I think if there's no more discussion, we're looking at the question. Would you like to make the motion, Danny?
I'll make it. I move that RZ 210082 be actually approved
I'll second.
with the conditions as recorded.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Roger. Okay. Next hearing.
Okay, now,
Sorry, Peter, just to, since there was a couple different votes, if we can just repeat what those votes were. Mike Buck?
Aye.
Danny Wilcox?
Aye.
Kevin Kirkwood? Roger Burton?
No.
Peter?
aye.
Van's not here either, and Dwayne.
Me, aye.
Thank you.
Real quick, so does that mean it'll go to the next board for approval?
It was going to go to the board regardless of what we voted.
That's correct. So it's already scheduled for the BOCC meeting, and you'll have the same opportunity to talk to them there at that point. Now, just real quick, the next hearing is a tenderfoot 2 pipeline, and I am unable to be in the hearing for that or to vote on it because I have a conflict of interest. I currently have a contract with GMT, and so I'm going to leave the room, and Danny, the vice chair, will handle the hearing.
Yeah, good idea.
Folks, we're going to recess for about 5 minutes. We'll be right back. Okay? It'll be quick.
One quick note for everybody. When the meeting is over or on a recess, none of the commissioners up here are allowed to talk about any of the items and any of the hearings, so don't ask them any questions they can't answer.
to see how the commissioners vote, 'cause I don't know. I don't know what they'll do. They may vote it down. They could easily, because it isn't compliant with the code.
I still have pretty good strength, but I just got off my ass. Right?
Yeah, it's getting older, you don't have the energy to do it.
Well, it's just, I just spend too much time with that stupid piece of
Shopping.
There's no,
Looking for drugs.
but there's no freaking reason in the planet. I should, I work from home. I mean, on my own, me too. So, there's no reason that I shouldn't just, I've got property, I can go, I can do a running track, or, like I've got an arena that I can run, or I can make a cross country.
But you don't.
I don't. I've been there for 24 years. I haven't done it.
I don't work out. I don't do any exercise.
Huh?
I don't do any exercise.
You don't? Does that help? Because you get out?
I drive to Elizabeth. Now it's 8 miles south. So I drive into Elizabeth, get out to the mail,
My daughter works out in Elizabeth, and she's home from college, but it's been great for her.
But it de-stresses me.
It makes a difference for you getting out?
No, the workout.
No, I mean, like when you go to work out, you work out of the house.
Yeah.
And does that make a difference versus if you work out at home?
I don't work out at all.
Oh, never did. Oh. Even when you were working, you just kind of just.
When I was working,
When I was working,
all the
you're
time.
busy with it.
When I was working all the time, out of the house like a regular job, I'd go in the morning to start my day.
I
5 in the morning.
Hate you. Don't even talk to me anymore.
I've been doing it for 25 years, bro.
Well, I'm lighter than I when I was in the hospital with COVID, I lost a bunch of weight, and I've kept it off. So I'm trying to. If all I added was activity, and I do a lot of stuff like physical stuff. I just got to move it.
Maybe you just eat the wrong foods. Too much of the wrong foods.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is though, you can't. You've got to do more, like you're doing, more regular exercise. Not just if you're, you know what I'm saying? If you.
So I do the regular exercise, and I do a lot of activity stuff too.
Yep.
You know, pruning bushes or cleaning up,
I didn't think I was going to live this long. That's the problem. Is I didn't have a plan B. Whoops.
I never thought I'd live past 30 back in the day.
Did you ever have any trouble with it? Probably got good genes. I have the truck driver gene. Both my wife and I do. She's thin, but she just has a stockier build, But she grew up on a ranch and didn't know any better. When we first bought our place, we had a couple of panels from her dad's place, and they were 25-foot steel panels, and they weighed
And get them started.
250 pounds. And I said, we got to move that over there because I'm going to cut that sucker.
Folks, can we get started?
Ready?
I'm keeping track of comments, by the way.
Are you guys here for the tenderfoot? Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you for the break. Needed that a few minutes. you? Or Greg?
Tis I, thank you.
Okay.
Greg Thompson, I am the CDS Director for Elbert County and the planner working on this particular case. This is the Tenderfoot 2 pipeline case SU-22-0027. To orient you to the site, it's in the far northwest corner of the county and stretches relatively close to both the Douglas County and Arapahoe County lines. This is an aerial showing the property, and it's kind of hard to tell here, but it basically extends from an existing well pad in the upper right-hand corner of this particular slide, and it goes 7.8 miles past 3 other well sites and ends up down along County Road 178. This might be a little bit easier to kind of tell what's going on there. Basically, the pipelines go between more developed areas. I think there's 10 parcels that are involved that it crosses. Shows the zoning here. The entirety of the pipeline is located in the ag zone. The application was submitted in March of this year. We have Planning Commission June 7th, which is this evening. Board of County Commissioners were scheduled for June 22nd. It's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on that day if you're interested in coming to that. So this is a special use review. As just noted, both the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners hold a public hearing to review the application. The application title is a major oil and gas facility, and it's categorized as that because it collects both natural gas and fluids from more than one well pad. This would collect it from 4 different well pads, and again, 7.8 mile pipeline. Because it's more than one, it's categorized as a major oil and gas facility. The applicant is the Tenderfoot Pipeline Company, LLC. The location, it goes from the Crystal Ruby well pad to the recently constructed Vulcan well pad. The easement varies in width from 75 feet to 30 feet, and as noted earlier, it's in the agricultural zone. This kind of shows how that particular site lays out, and it has different segments of this, but basically the end of it, or the tail of this line, is here at the Crystal Ruby well pad, goes past another 2 well pads, and then continues to the north where the Vulcan pad is here. There was an administratively approved 1 mile segment, or a little bit more than a mile, that connects this same line to Arapahoe County. So that already, if I say it already exists, I'm not sure if it's actually on the ground, but it already exists. I'm getting some nods from over yonder. So that connects, and then this 7.8 mile stretch will connect to that and then continue north where those materials would be treated further north. Referral went out. Arapahoe County had no comments, nor did building inspection. Corps had comments basically about their existing electric facilities, that they need to be preserved. Division of Water Resources and Public Works had no comments. Public Works does have an existing agreement for road maintenance and road use as they're constructing this, so that's been something that has existed with the existing well pads and the line that exists as well, so that will continue on as well. The review criteria for you is in Article 3, E5 of the zoning regulations, A through H. Whether or not the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood, whether the use would have an undue burden on available infrastructure. I think for the most part, this line is underground. There'll be construction, and they'll dig a trench, they'll put line in, they'll cover that trench back up. So in that particular location as it's being constructed, there shouldn't be too much impact, if you will, as that construction occurs. and then once it's in the ground, it's not something that, you know, should be seen. There are, I believe, 2, give or take, meter runs where that line comes above the ground, short segment, and then goes back underground so they can provide maintenance on those lines. Talked a little bit about under B, the streets and the roads out in that area, how they're required to maintain them because of their relatively heavy use during drilling and construction. C is the use would not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Kind of ties into that same comment. D, the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. The oil and gas wells are on those well pads are already approved, so really all we're talking about right now is just the pipeline. And the pipeline will actually help with the road system, and that if you're not taking produced water and or oil from these wells on the roads, you're putting it into pipes, then you're saving some wear and tear on the roads. That should also help with some of those air and odor issues that were listed as criteria D. E, all sanitation requirements would be met. That would be F, the use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. They'd be required to reseed the ground after they've put the topsoil back on. G, the use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County, and it should not be. H, the supplemental standards are met for the specific use. There are supplemental standards for this. They're not anything that really directly addresses development. They were listed in the staff report. I'd be happy to talk about those if you would like, but suffice to say that they do meet those. So the findings are that the proposal's in general conformance with the comprehensive plan. The proposal meets the criteria for approval in the zoning regulations. The subdivision regulations are not applicable. The proposal is compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and the proposal will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area. Staff recommends approval of the requested tenderfoot 2 pipelines with the conditions as noted here. The 3 standard ones concerning the signs being removed, that the fees have been paid, conditions of approval are met, and SUR exhibits recorded. Recordation of all appropriate documents occur within 180 days. And then back to that core comment that they'll maintain existing utility easements and facilities unless otherwise requested by the applicant. So if they need to work with core seemed open to working with the applicants as well. I don't think there's any expectation that there'll be any conflict, but should they have to, they would do that. Happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here as well.
Okay. Sir, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks so much for your time this evening. My name is Max Blair. I'm the Regulatory Manager for GMT and Tenderfoot Pipeline. Feels very loud. Going to back up a little. Been working with staff, with Greg and everybody here at the county. It's been a great experience so far, working on the wells and the pipeline. I have a very brief slide deck. I'll go through it quickly. It's getting late, so don't want to take any more of your time than we need to. It was hidden on another screen, apparently. All right, first slide here is just a very simple overview: what, who, where, and when. You've seen the map that Greg presented previously, and we do hope to begin construction as soon as we can secure approval from the board. And starting in July, and we expect it to last 6 to 8 weeks, although it may go quicker than that. Next slide, please. Our project team, and just a little bit about the company, Tenderfoot Pipeline is a wholly owned subsidiary of GMT Exploration. GMT is in the business of identifying oil and gas resources and then developing those resources. We have experience in Colorado, but also in Alaska, Wyoming, Alberta, Canada, New Mexico, and the company has been in this business for over 20 years. The staff at GMT has decades of experience in this business. Our vice president of the pipeline is Philip Wood. We have Dennis Snow here tonight, VP of Operations. BJ Cox is our production superintendent. Hans Schuster, our land manager. I'm the regulatory manager. And one of our consultants, Amy Butler, has helped us prepare this application. Next slide, please. Here's some facts about the pipeline. This will be designed to meet a number of different applicable standards to ensure that it's built and operated safely. The maximum allowable operating pressure of this line will be 265 pounds PSI, but we're going to operate it at probably closer to 100 pounds. So there's quite a safety factor there in terms of the pipeline strength versus the pressures we'll put through it. During construction, all of the welds will be inspected and marked. There'll be quite a few records kept on the construction process, including the exact location of where the pipe is laid so that we can maintain it over the life of the system. The right-of-way for the pipeline has been registered with Colorado 811. I'm sure you're familiar with the Call Before You Dig program. That's to ensure we are notified of any excavations in the area and we can be on site to ensure that no damage occurs from third parties. And then lastly, and most importantly, once construction is over, which is a relatively short-term process, we will return the topsoil to the right-of-way and reseed it with a mix that's approved by the property owners and try and get the land back to production, agricultural production, as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. We've gone through a lot of steps and work to ensure that the project is designed to protect health, safety, and the environment. We took great care to route it, and we were able to secure all of the easements through private negotiations with property owners. We have had great success there, and we have a couple of our property owners here tonight in support of the project. We will be installing the pipeline under, there's only one county road crossing. We'll do it by boring under the road so we won't interrupt traffic. We have a safety plan. We have an agreement with Rattlesnake Fire Department. We will be building this in compliance with a number of different standards, but it will be regulated by PHMSA. That's a U.S. DOT pipeline regulatory body with quite a few requirements that we'll need to meet. We will be installing it fairly deep to ensure that any existing agricultural uses that occur over top of the pipeline won't interfere with our operations. We won't interfere with their operations. We will hydro test it to ensure it's ready to go into service. And the material we've selected here is poly pipe, HDPE. It's resilient, it's corrosion resistant, it's durable. It can withstand the pressures that we intend to operate at, and it actually will help with construction. It makes construction a little simpler than with steel pipe. And then lastly, on the environment side, all of the drainages and riparian areas that we identified in our initial surveys, we'll be crossing all of those by boring under them to limit the environmental impacts from construction. And the next slide highlights those. Was a question that we discussed with staff a little bit, so I thought it'd be good to share those. Everywhere we have a green circle. The pipeline is indicated in blue. All of the green circles are areas we'll be boring under something. One of them is County Road 1721. All the rest are drainages. They may be dry, but they're considered, environmental resources that we want to ensure we don't harm. And I think lastly, Just to confirm, all of the required public notices have been posted. We've sent letters to surrounding property owners. We did have a community meeting in December. We had some great turnout. We held it at Spring Valley Golf Course, and we had 3 written comments that were in support of the project, and we had 1 comment that raised some concerns around traffic. Quite honestly, those concerns were more around the oil and gas drilling than they were around pipeline, but we have still been in communication with those folks and continue to keep that dialogue going as we continue to develop. Our company, Tenderfoot Pipeline, and our parent GMT, we have the technical capability to implement this project, and we do already have a pipe in the ground, Tenderfoot Phase 1, that does take production from the Vulcan well north into Arapahoe County, into the Denver market, basically. And then I will say lastly, as you saw in the staff report, the staff recommends approval. So I'm here for any questions you might have, and I do have a few colleagues here that know a lot more about pipeline construction than I do, so if you have any technical questions, I may draw on their expertise.
Thank you. I'll ask for public comment real quick. Go ahead, if you could state your name, please.
Yes, my name is Dwayne Coggin, and I'm a resident of the area and also a business owner in the area, and very supportive of the project. I am very appreciative that it moves the product from the approved wells in the most safest and environmentally sound way to do it. And just think it's a great way to do it, and also appreciate that revenue generated from this project, instead of putting wear and tear on the roads, will help Elbert County with servicing some of its roads. All of us that drive around this area know that we need some help with our roads for gas, electric, or diesel cars. Whatever's going to happen in the future, we need better roads. So very much in approval. Thank you.
Thank you. No comments? Sir.
Yeah, I'm Bill Gabriel. I live at 44980 County Road 1. It's go across most of my property. I'm in for the pipeline here and recommend you guys approve it.
Mr.
Dan Jordan, 12020 North Pine Drive, Parker. I represent the Jordan Family Limited Partnership. We own Section 23, the one in the middle of the west end of this. Just wanted to say we've had really good luck with GMT living up to their word and exceeding it, whether in a written agreement or not. They do a real nice job. We look forward to approval of the pipeline project. Thank you.
Okay. Closed comment? All right, discussion.
I have a question for the applicant.
Yep.
I have a quick question on the points where the pipeline comes above for maintenance, above ground. What's the environment, or what's the protection that you have in those locations for any spillage, or not that there, I'm saying there is, but how do you protect the environment at those points that come above ground?
Great question. So the below ground facility will be made of poly pipe, but where it comes above ground, it will be steel pipe and coated. Those sites, we call them valve sites, or at each of the well sites, we'll have a piece of equipment there that allows us to launch tools that can run through the pipe for cleaning and inspection, pigging tools. The facility, the above ground valve will be surrounded by a fence. There'll be probably gravel down within that fenced area so we can maintain weeds and keep it in good condition. And then we have procedures primarily that protect us from environmental contamination through those operations. So we'll have secondary containment to catch any fluids that might spill or drip, and it's our responsibility to ensure that that we don't cause contamination to the environment through those operations. So we'll have procedures in place to protect that.
Thank you.
Good, Dwayne?
Yeah, I got a quick question. How does the aerial surveys work for your leak detection and repair? How does that work, and how much leakage occurs before it's detected?
That is a question I may need to rely on some technical expertise for, but I will say the visual surveys can be done aerially, and if there's any signs of erosion along the line or vegetation that has died around the pipeline, that's a good indicator. But there are technologies today that actually let you look for hydrocarbons that are leaking using infrared technology. So we can actually video the line with a camera that can see vapors that might be leaking from the line. But the line will be designed not to leak, and that's why we go through all these steps during construction to hydro test it and inspect these welds so that so nothing escapes.
But those surveys are done on an annual basis then?
You know, I'm going to call on one of my colleagues to help with that schedule.
I'm Woody Evans, construction manager for GMT. The inspections are done quarterly, but we have a meter in place at each facility, and then we have an endpoint meter. So whatever we're getting out of the facility, we double check that against the endpoint. That's our main point of checking for leaks. If the two are not matching up, you know there's something going somewhere.
And that's then on a continual basis, you're doing that continually?
That's monitored 24/7.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Happy to answer any other questions.
I just have a curiosity question. When you go under 1721, well, two things. You said that the primary pipe is poly pipe, but then you talked about the welding process. You don't weld poly pipe, do you?
Greg, if you go back one or two slides, we have a photograph of what that process looks like on the right-hand side. There is a machine that actually butts the two joints of pipe together, heats them up, and fuses them. So it's called weld. It's not traditional, you know, steel welding, but it is a similar process. With regard to exactly what care we take to ensure that weld is going to hold, again, I could ask Woody to come up and give you a little overview, but he loves to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, just like say curiosity, when you go under the road, I assume you have to weld those pieces together before you go.
Correct. We'll use a boring machine to get to a depth of about 10 feet below the road surface, and we do that, one, to ensure that we're not interfering with any other utilities that might already be installed along the parallel to the road. We'll identify all those in advance and ensure that our bore path won't interfere with any other utilities. We don't want to cause damage to any other things in the ground, but we'll use a machine to bore under and ensure we have a hole large enough for that pipe, and then we'll pull the pipe through and weld it on both sides.
Okay. Second question is, in the future, if it's ever abandoned, what procedures do you have at that point, and what happens with the easements, et cetera?
That's a great question. So the easement generally is the contract that will dictate what happens. Most of our easements have language that allows us to abandon the pipe in place, and we'll fill it with an inert material, cap it off, ensure that there's no hydrocarbons left, and leave it in place. If the agreement requires that we remove it, then we'll have to come back and redisturb the ground and remove the pipe and recover it and reseed it. So there's pros and cons to both approaches, and we've left it primarily to the landowner to dictate whether they want it removed or not at the end of life. But once the use is no longer valid, if the wells that this well will be connecting, if they're no longer productive and they're going to be plugged and abandoned, then eventually this easement will be released back to the property owner at the time. It may still be the same property owner. It may have changed hands since we secured the easement.
Thank you.
And one more.
Yep.
One more quick one. So it does sound like you do seed then. I think you answered my question.
Absolutely, yes.
You do
yes. So
reseed.
we'll strip the top 6 to 12 inches of topsoil from the entire right-of-way to preserve it. Then we'll trench for the pipe itself, and that'll generate a spoil pile through trenching. We'll bury the pipe with that subsoil first, and then we'll recover with that topsoil and reseed. And our goal is to get, to return it to its productive natural condition as quickly as we can. Preserving that topsoil is a key part of that. Choosing a good seed mix that's compatible with the soils and with the land use is also really important, and we work with our property owners to make sure we're using the right mix. They know better than we do in most cases.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, good? Okay,
Thank you very much.
motion?
Mr. Chair. With respect to SU 22-0027, I recommend we recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners as submitted with the 4 conditions and the special note about the revegetation that'll be handled.
Okay,
A second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have a quorum. Did we note also that Peter did recuse himself? Okay, all right. All right, at this point, we have no work session, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Make a motion to close.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Thank you, folks.